happens when you try to pay influencers to create racist content.
Now the hot topic is the Indian guy, stepping on the Quran. Do the reaction at the beginning for the viewer to see and stay until the end of the video.
Your main topic is to talk about the immigration. Kalau contoh, I nak pergi travel ke apa ke, mesti I nampak banyak orang Bangladesh ke airport yada-yada. So I feel not comfortable.
We posed as a politician's aide to find out if influencers and marketing agencies would run our clearly racist campaign. And for the right price, most were happy to.
你方便透露之前跟政治人物合作的 budget 大概是多少吗？
那个政治人物大概都会有到500多千这样子，甚至有些是更高。
Influencers tu memang support ke atau
Tak pun, tapi disebabkan dibayar dengan amount yang sangat banyak. And then orang macam agree je.
Politicians and platforms have been preying on our worst instincts for their own benefit, farming our rage for virality and votes.
Both sides of the hall does pay centrals to conduct black ops.
Cybertrooper ni satu benda. I don't care is it true or false. As long as you pay them, they do the work, like lapdogs.
These tactics and narratives cause real harm, from public health crises to hate crimes, even genocide.
New reporting suggests that those lies were being systematically spread by the military.
Violence and vitriol on the streets of the United Kingdom. The immediate trigger, far-right provocateurs posted disinformation on social media.
A lot of the rhetoric that led up to this riot was based on misinformation that spread quickly on social media.
I've spent the past year investigating this dark industry. I've spoken to influencers, political insiders, former tech workers, even cybertroopers, to find out how far this bad influence goes and whether democracy can survive it. Protesters here are fighting the Urban Renewal Act that they say grants excessive powers to developers. The fight first took shape online.
Kami duduk kat sini dah 200 tahun tau. Sebab ulah.
Ratunaga is a controversial figure in the online world, but love her or hate her, where she goes, the fans will follow.
Untuk housing bills ni, kalau untuk mempertahankan URA, memang dibayar. Tapi untuk berlawan dengan URA, tak ada siapa bayar sebab apa? Ia berkaitan dengan rakyat.
She says pro-URA influencers are skewing opinions for money. And she's no stranger to the persuasive powers of social media.
Kalau nak tarik satu crowd, kena ada orang yang dikenali, kena ada influencer. Mana-mana event ke apa semua, kalau ada influencer, ia lebih memberi kesan pada semua.
This also applies to politics.
Parti-parti politik, mereka mengawal media arus perdana. Kedua, diorang nak kawal naratif melalui social media.
Sabah, negeri kaya dengan budaya, hasil bumi dan semangat rakyatnya.
Politicians have always used media to share policies and win votes. In the past, they used newspapers, radio, TV. But now, it's all about influencers.
People nowadays want content that looks more organic.
Anwar Ibrahim ni duk sembang apa lagi weh? Sampai nak turunkan hutang negara yang bernilai 1 trilion ringgit.
When they watch content that is polished, they would assume that the content is heavily scripted. There's someone behind it that is pushing the content. That's how the influencers comes in, to make it more organic. And it doesn't look like a paid ads.
But it is.
Yeah.
In search of authenticity, more than twice as many Malaysians now get their news from social media. But the truth is, political parties have been manipulating this space for years.
Both sides of the hall does pay centrals to conduct black ops just to make the other side look not so good.
Mohammed used to be in the PR and comms team for a member of parliament. He's speaking anonymously because he signed an NDA.
So typically, when they engage with these trolls or these influencers, they would receive a fact sheet, typically for them to attack. For example, this party has been known to be more supportive of businessmen compared to the rakyat, for example. So there are a narrative sheet on things to talk about and things to not talk about.
We wanted to find out how far these paid influencers would go to spread anger and fear. So we posed as a politician's rep and called up a bunch of agencies.
Hello? Hello? Hi.
Hello. Hi.
We asked if they'd paint marginalised communities like migrants and refugees as threats.
Okay, contoh main topic is to talk about the immigration part. Kalau contoh I nak pergi travel ke apa ke, mesti I nampak banyak orang Bangladesh dekat airport yada-yada. So I feel not comfortable. Apakah agensi kerajaan boleh ada inisiatif ke yada-yada? Atau boleh lah macam tu.
Faham. Dan untuk influencers kan, dia orang sign tak NDA? Sebab like saya punya boss memang tak nak bagi orang tahu dia yang fund lah.
Usually boleh je, but for influencers kita takkan bagi tahu siapa lah. Kita just supply project je. So diorang kiranya memang diorang tak tahu everything lah. Sebab influencers ni as long as diorang dibayar dan dibagi guideline untuk bekerja, dan diorang okey je.
And my boss memang want virality lah.
Boleh, definitely.
Yeah.
Virality come with negativity. Without negativity, there won't be virality. Unless you are Khairul.
What would you suggest? Like macam negative but not too bad?
No, it is to have the high impact moment at the beginning of the video. For example, now the hot topic is the Indian guy, stepping on the Quran. Do this reaction at the beginning for the viewer to see and stay until the end of the video.
So it's also like about emotions, anger.
Somewhat, if you want virality.
Going viral can't be left to chance. Agencies pay bots and seeders to flood posts with comments, so it looks like everyone agrees with them. It also forces the algorithm to push the post to more people.
一个 post 啦，它下面如果没有 engagement 的话，其实它不会走，所以 normally 会有一些我们要水军来去下面那边去 comment， 问题要放大，尤其是现在大家随手口热嘛，所以有些东西其实是可以try to 去 make up 讲出来。
Kalau comment seeding tu kita boleh buat. Macam sekarang ni banyak je government agencies macam banyak juga guna comment seedings lah. Contoh kita kata kita hire 200 orang influencers and then kita akan hire maybe 1,000 seeders. 1,000 ni akan comment dekat thread, dekat TikTok, dekat repost and everything lah.
Macam mana you make sure it's safe, that it doesn't get leaked out?
Can sign NDA with you, but for influencers kita takkan bagi tahu siapa lah. Tapi in case kalau kata nak sign NDA dulu and everything tu boleh je, kita boleh handle.
The agencies told us an online campaign around election time would cost from 300,000 ringgit to over $1 million. Ratu Naga used to be a BN cybertrooper. She told us her budgets were up to 3 million for a 6 to 12 month period.
EE13 agak crucial masa tu. Macam saya punya peranan ni sangat besar dan sangat banyak dan saya kena kontrol ramai orang. At that time Barisan Nasional got a lot of cyber trooper, a lot of bloggers, but I control my part on it. So macam I wallot to team I. Kalau ada satu-satu isu yang muncul pun semua, kita akan sit together and then synchronize the answer.
Beyond counter-arguments and damage control, they took things a step further.
Dan masa tu diketuai oleh Anwar Ibrahim. Semua orang sedia maklum Anwar Ibrahim ni bersama dengan DAP dan DAP mempunyai suara yang kuat, suara yang besar. So apa jadi ketika itu kita just nak kata main isu racial. This is Malaysia. Kita kena bagi tahulah dekat semua orang. Okay, kita orang Melayu, apa yang kita pertahankan, apa yang kita tak nak berlaku. So we don't want what PAP done to Singapore, you repeated again here. Macam itulah. So dia nampak macam kes racial, kes agama apa semua. Lebih kurang macam itulah. Malaysia ni orang ni sensitif.
Yes, you heard that right. Politicians funding racially divisive narratives for their own political gain. And today it turns out that some influencers are happy to spread any narrative for their own commercial gain.
Some diorang nak influencers use the baju and then pakai cap and then pakai some flag and whatsoever macam tu. So the price would be different of each influencers lah macam tu.
So pada masa tu influencers tu memang support ke atau
tak pun, tapi disebabkan dibayar dengan amount yang sangat banyak. And then diorang macam agree je.
And the campaigns they've run have worked.
How was the reaction to the hard sell content?
Yang during that time, exposure tu dapat. Even article pun pick up the stories.
So itu you don't need to pay media kan?
That would be, we paid the media lah juga. Itu kiranya macam kita tanam lah the stories.
We should remind you that not every agency or influencer was willing to do this.
We will definitely have to come back to you whether if this is something that we are comfortable in doing. I'm just worried how sensitive the matter can be.
But with social media now so heated and tribalistic, newer political influencers don't even need to pay bots or cybertroopers. Influencer Naeem Brandage, communication director of Bersatu's youth wing, says he relies on organic reactions to his content to make it go viral. Before moving to Bersatu, he helped manage the social media accounts of over 100 Pakatan Harapan candidates during the 2018 elections.
The work that I do online, I wouldn't call it work, I do it as a hobby.
Orang tak rasa pelik sikit ke pada waktu Presiden China datang ke Malaysia jugalah?
I do play on the riskier side of things, talking about things that a lot of people don't want to touch on. But the way I do it is usually try to be very, very safe in order to make sure that I stick within the confine of the law.
Menjaga kesihatan rakyat, kenapa kerajaan tak haramkan rokok sekali? Ya, vape memang teruk. Keputusan kerajaan haramkan vape.
Yeah. Some things are legally incriminating, so we let the comment section do the work.
Rage-baiting strategies are becoming exponentially more powerful and toxic thanks to social media algorithms. Each post on social media is given an algorithm score based on the number of views, comments, and shares it gets. The higher the score, the more the platform pushes that content to other people's feeds. Whistleblowers have accused Meta of knowing about problematic content on its platforms, including incitement to violence, but that they were unwilling to prevent it after internal research showed it fueled engagement.
Previously, I worked at Meta in the South Asia public policy team. I looked at issues of hate speech, violent extremism, misinformation. These platforms are optimized for reach and engagement, and we know that negative, polarizing, divisive, offensive content actually does receive more reach and engagement. In contexts where content is leading to societal unrest or conflict, tech companies do have what they call break glass measures to help in de-escalating conflict. But we know from experiences of whistleblowers that companies choosing not to deploy them because that goes against the profit maximizing design choices.
Tech design choices include things like the personalized feed, infinite scroll, autoplay functions, typing indicators. We didn't always have these. They've been optimized and strategically added in. Now, let's add AI to the equation. Whatever we've seen agencies, cybertroopers, and influencers do, AI and AI influencers can do the same at an infinite scale.
Semua turun sekarang. Kamu siapa boleh buat rumah dekat sini? Ini negara Malaysia, ada undang-undang.
There are two kinds of AI that I particularly concerned of. One is generative AI, obviously, right? Deepfake, like cloning images, doctoring images, cloning someone's voice. And the second part of AI that we're worried about is the predictive AI, right? How can it help people to micro-target people more efficiently? These two technologies under AI can help amplify these messages even faster, even more convincing, that can lead to even more problematic information environment.
There are already AI slot pages sharing political content across TikTok. Deepfakes of politicians and royals have been used to promote fraudulent investment schemes, and explicit deepfakes have been used to try and blackmail MPs for money. But the real issues here are not just about brain rot or being scammed.
In 2015, I met with a journalism professor and he said, I'm worried about the future of democracy if journalism dies. And I remember thinking, come on, this is the US. Like, democracy is not under threat here. And, you know, think about what happened in 2016 and what's happening now with Donald Trump and US democracy, you know, in rapid decline to the point where people are questioning whether there is a democracy there. And so that's what can happen when you have this polarizing environment where hate speech and problematic content, which is highly politicized, that's going to be a huge problem for the world.
For the first time, over half of the world's countries now fall into the difficult or very serious categories for press freedom. In Malaysia, economic strains and legal pressure on journalists have led to a rise in self-censorship. Malaysia's World Press Freedom ranking dropped 7 places to 95 this year. A growing mistrust of mainstream media is justified. News organizations are increasingly being bought up or funded by billionaires, political parties, or corporations with interests other than the public good. But influencers are not exactly the better option.
Well, one of the loudest advocates for media bias are often influencers, right? One of their key strategies is to say, you know, the media is not telling you everything. That's why I'm the most important voice on the internet that you need to hear from every day. And of course, it suits their narrative, right? Influencers are working on a personal brand. So they're ultimately going to do what's best for themselves when it comes to their next contract or certain, you know, opinions and ideas.
So can democracy survive all this political rage farming? As bleak as it seems, what with politicians and tech companies driving this hate economy, there are signs of hope. 2026 has seen landmark court cases holding social media platforms accountable for their negligent addictive design, and there are hundreds more cases pending. Experts have described it as a new era of accountability. In Hungary, a government widely seen as oppressive was recently ousted, which analysts have credited to strong online counter-tactics and genuine grassroots campaigning, among other factors. One major change we could make to reduce rage farming would be the long-awaited political financing bill. This would make political spending transparent, which means we'd know just how many influencers, trolls, or AI agents your MP has paid for. But in the meantime, what can we do?
Who are going to be the people that innovate? And it's not going to be your 70-year-old politician who's the head of a political party. They're just going to go with the trends. It's going to be young people coming through saying, we don't like how we engage with social media. We're going to try to shift eyeballs elsewhere and do different things online.
We need to practice critical thinking, pause, not to be too reactive about what we've seen online, right? Because there's a lot of people benefit from having you reacting to problematic content online. So we do not want to fall victim of such information.
On that note, please share your reactions in the comment section, but do think about it first.
Hey everyone, it's Ian from The Fourth. To combat bad influence on social media, we are building a community of ethical influencers committed to using their platforms for good. We've worked with different influencers before, most famously on our campaign and investigation that helped change laws against child sexual predators in Malaysia. But now we're bringing everyone together to drive impact as one united community. Our goal is to make ethical, impact-driven influence the new standard, and to make bad influence a thing of the past. If you know any influencers who should be part of this, please tag them in the comments or send them over to our website. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you on the next investigation.